ng BSP. In fact, yung inflation for February, ang forecast ng BSP is 8.5 to 9.3, right? They forecasted that last week. So the actual inflation number is nearer the lower end of the forecast. So that's the good news. Now, I will leave with you the full deck. I cleared this with the President para mas marami kayong masulat, no? Dahil napaka-comprehensive ng report namin sa Presidente, and I cleared it with him. Sabi niya, you can share it with the press, no? Unang-una, binanggit namin yung anong sources ng inflation. Ang lumalabas ay talagang food items, no? So, major items like vegetables, meat, sugar, fish, no? And then, so, in relation to that, I reported kung gaano karami tayong kailangang angkatin na mga rice, yellow corn, raw and refined sugar, pork and fish. So I stated that, and we will leave you the exact number. Narito yun, no? So I don't have to tell you right now. And then I emphasize that in order to tackle inflation, talaga all of government approach, no? So ang BSP naman ginagawa na yung kanyang role. In fact, ang BSP natin ay one of the most aggressive in this part of the world, no? In terms of adjusting the policy rate. Second sa aggressiveness is Korea. But otherwise, tayo yung pinaka-aggressive, no? I remember when I left BSP, ang interest rate natin is 2%. Ngayon, nasa 6% na tayo. Ang adjustment niya is 400 basis points. Kasi yung 100 basis point is equivalent to 1%. No? So from 2%, nung mulis ako sa BSP, ngayon 6% na ang interest rate natin. No? Now, so ginagawa ng fiscal ng monetary policy yung dapat niyang gawin. Now, sabi ko, ang pressure ngayon is on the fiscal side. Kailangan natin tutukan yung mga pressure ng mga commodities. And then we told the President what are the short-term measures and what are the long-term measures. No? So, for example, dun sa tinatawag namin na supply chain, pinag-usapan namin yung from production, anong gagawin sa production, and then kung kailangan mag-import because there is a deficit, and then what we'll do post-harvest, warehousing, distribution, and then transport of goods. So yun ang mga pinag-usapan namin. Kailangan tayo mag-angkat ng fertilizers sa mga ibang bansa kasi kailangan natin yan for agricultural production. So we have, right now, we can import from Saudi Arabia and China. And then we have to focus on agriculture production and productivity. And then marami ng programa tayo sa budget na nakatutok dito sa agricultural production. Yun diniscuss ko rin kay Presidente yun. And then, what else? And then may mga requirements kasi na nakaka-delay ng paglabas ng produkto from the safe. Pag nag-angkat ka, bago mo mailabas sa customs, maraming mga kailangan mga requirements, ganun. So these are again part of the recommendation. For example, fast-tracking government processes on clearances for agricultural goods. And I'll mention this, pero magbibigay din kami sa inyo. Ito na yan. Okay. So, for example, removal of the Certificate of Necessity to Import, or CNI, for fish. No? Tapos, digitalize and centralize the sanitary and phytosanitary import clearance system. Kasi I understand, ito yung sanitary and phytosanitary import clearance. Dati computerized to ng panahon ni GMA, tapos ng panahon ni Pinoy, kinuwang manual. So nakabagal, no? So ngayon, we will computerize it again, no? And then, tinatawag namin yung implement the equivalence principle of the sanitary and phytosanitary agreement. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Ito parang sa vaccine nangyari sa vaccine. Sabi sa US, okay na sa FDA nila, di ba? Sabi okay na itong klase ng vaccine ito. Pagdating dito sa atin, ini-examine natin ulit, di ba? Dumadaan ulit sa FDA. Okay na nga sa US yung Pfizer, mga Moderna, gano'n. So ngayon, ang sinasabi namin na equivalence, pag in-okay na yun sa ibang bansa at reliable naman yung approval, wag na natin ulitin, di ba? Para mabilis ang pag-release. So that's one. And then remove the required authority to release imported goods or ATRIG. Yun. Ito naman, BIR Customs. So, sinabi ko kay Presidente, to the extent na pwede naman itong tanggalin legally, tatanggalin natin para mabilis lang ang labas ng food imports from the customs, no? And then kailangan, sabi namin, kailangan ng early warning systems. So magkakaroon ng isang komite na pinorm ng Presidente, na chair ako at saka co-chair ko si Secretary Balisacan Neda, Vice Chairman si DBM Secretary, si Mina, and then member noon ng Agriculture, member ang DTI, at member din ng DILG. Ang gagawin lang, at saka DOST, itong committee na ito is called Interagency Committee on Inflation and Market Outlook. So, hindi na magiging ad hoc yung kasi pagka parang nag-create ng committee pagka mag-import na, no? Ganun. Minsan mali yung timing. Kasi magdidesisyon ka mag-import, tapos darating dito sa atin, tama-tama nag-aani naman yung mga farmers. So, umaangal talaga sila. So, dapat talaga i-forecast mo there should be a scientific, science-based forecast, no? Madali naman mag-forecast ng production, Gamitin mo satellite, o kaya yung, para makita mo na pag nagtanim pa lang, malalaman mo na how many hectares have been planted. Ganun. So, nakikita mo yung development. Tapos kung magkaroon ng bagyo, makikita mo rin through the satellite. So makikita mo. So we will use that kind of model, no, to forecast. So this will be a permanent committee. Ang trabaho nito ay yun nga, to come up with a demand and supply situation, and we will report to the President on a monthly basis kung ano ang sitwasyon. Kung kailangan mag-angkat, mag-aangkat tayo. So hindi na ad hoc yung decision to import kung kailangan mag-import, no? And then meron din tayong tinatawag na binabasa niyo na yung may mga rekomendasyon din tayo tungkol sa napaka-importante rin, sabi namin, na since mataas ang inflation, siguro ipagpatuloy natin yung mga ayuda na binibigay natin sa mga kailangan. So tutuloy natin yung Kadiwa. In fact, we will expand the Kadiwa program. We will continue the provision of fuel discounts, yung programa for the farmers and the fisher folks. And then we will extend the targeted cash transfer program for 2023. Ano itong cash transfer program? Ito ay 500 pesos for 2 months. So that means 1,000 pesos for 9.3 million households. Ibibigay na natin to. Na-identify na namin kung saan kukunin ng pera, at siguro in a few days or a few weeks, mabibigay na natin to sa mga na-apekto ng inflation. Okay? And then, pinakita rin namin na merong total na 26.6 billion pesos na subsidies for the vulnerable sectors. So, ito yung mga fertilizer discount voucher, yung fuel discount on farmers and fisher folks, fuel subsidy to transport sector affected by the rising fuel costs. So ito mga jeepney drivers, tricycle drivers, and so forth and so on, they will get subsidy. And then we will extend, as I mentioned, we will extend the targeted cash transfer program, 9.3 billion, a total of 26.6 billion. Okay, so this will be the subsidies for the vulnerable sector. And then magkikreate din tayo ng tinatawag na economic development group, no? This is economic development group para mas mabilis ang pag-address ng mga problema sa ekonomiya natin. I will be the chairman, co-chair ko si NEDA, and the members will be PMS, DTI, DBM, DA, DPWH. This is, I don't know what slide is this, but I think you have a copy there, no? Ang secretariat nito ay NEDA. Nag-identify din kami ng mga batas na kailangan ipasa. This is naman long-term naman to, no? For example, yung New Agrarian Emancipation Act, no? That's number one. I understand this has passed the House and napasa na rin to sa Senado. Ang pakay ng batas na ito is condonation of agrarian reform beneficiaries, mga worth 58 billion pesos, no? So yung mga pagkakautang ng mga small farmers, para ikukondonal siya. And this will allow farmers to focus now on their efforts to increase production rather than pag iniisip pa nila, paano ko babayaran itong lupa na ito. So mag-focus na lang sila sa production. Secondly, the other bill that we are going to push is the National Land Use Act. Ang ibig sabihin nito, mag-allocate tayo ng mga lupa, say for protection, for conservation, for production, means for agriculture and fisheries, settlement development, this is for housing, and then infrastructure development for transportation, communication, water resources, social infrastructure, and so on. So, ang mangyayari nito, hindi mo na yung mga agricultural land kino-convert into mga housing, na gano'n. No? So, nakaset aside talaga yung agricultural land so they will not be converted into other use. And then we also propose the Livestock Development and Competitiveness Bill. Ito ay naka-address sa mga poultry and hogs, no? So para kailangan i-reduce natin yung tariff sa corn to 5%, uniform 5%. Napaka-importante kasi yung corn sa production ng hogs and poultry. And then we also propose the amendments to the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation, and so forth. So meron nasa inyo ring listahan yan, ano? And then finally, we have also proposed the creation of the Economic Development Group. So the creation of the Economic Development Group with the following composition. Chairperson is the Department of Finance, co-chair ko si NEDA, and then the members are PMS, DTI, DBM, Department of Agriculture, Department of Public Works and Highways, DOTR, DICT, Department of Energy, Department of Science and Technology, Department of Transportation, DILG, and DOLE. Ang secretariat nito ay NEDA. And then, pinakita rin namin na napaka-importante na i-address natin yung energy. Kasi kasi isang complaint talaga sa Pilipinas ay napakamahal ng energy cost, no? So, diniscuss namin yun, and sinabi naman natin na magkakaroon ng energy conservation plan. So, on the demand side. Kasi hindi naman tayo makaka-influence sa supply side kung mahal ang presyo ng gasolina sa world market. Hindi natin ma-influence yun. But we can start conserving. So, isa sa mga proposal ay ito umpisahan ng Department of Energy ay magkakaroon siya ng change ng time ng pagpasok sa opisina. Umpisa niya ng 7, tapos matatapos siya ng 4. So ito yung daylight saving time, no? Sasabayan niya yung yung sunrise, so mas maaga siya. And then, I think pagka Friday, work from home pag Friday. So, that's one way. Pag nag-succeed yung experiment ng DOE na yun, baka i-adapt ng ibang agency yun. No? Tapos, babawasan natin, i-require natin, hindi ko alam kung anong temperature natin dito ngayon, i-require natin na 25. Nakalagay dito, sabi 24. Sabi ko, mababa pa yung 24. Gawin mo 25. Kasi alam ko during the energy crisis, nagpunta ako sa China, boom China 25. Oo. Wala ka naman masyadong 24, 25, pero malaki yung masisave mo pagka 25, no? So, yun. So, talagang napaka-comprehensive nung presentation na ito at sana ma-address na natin yung inflation problem. Hindi ka agad yan masosolve, but ang forecast namin is by siguro October this year ay bababa na siya sa 4%. Bababa na siya ganun. Okay? And then by 2024, ang average inflation will be 3.1. Okay? That's the forecast. Now I'm ready to answer questions.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you for laying out the all-of-government approach and the short-term plans and, of course, the medium and long-term plans. Now, are there any questions from the media?
Yeah.
Microphone.
Hello po, sir. Yung dun sa targeted cash transfer program, sabi niyo po 500 for 2 months, 1,000 pesos for 1.3 million households. So 500 pesos every month for 2 months.
2 months.
Okay, thank you po.
Okay, Katrina
At
Domingo.
ano yan households, hindi individual households. Yan. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Katrina Domingo, ABS-CBN.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Sir, on a slightly different topic but still on the realm of finance. Ano po?
Dami-dami ko nang diniscuss eh.
Because you answered most of the questions already in the
Okay.
presentation. Anyway, sir, least developed nations are having a summit in Doha right now, and some nations are calling for financial institutions to move beyond per capita gross domestic product as the only measure of development. What is the Philippines' stance on this point? Do you share the same call?
Maraming measures kasi ng development and but so far ang pinakaano nga is yung per capita income, no. Meron din namang gross national happiness, may mga ganong measure eh. Medyo mahirap i-measure 'yon. So our target is to attain what we call upper middle income status by the earliest by 2024. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Per capita income nun is around $4,000 and above, no? Or to around mga $16,000. So yun, to me, that's still the best measure. No?
Okay, sir, follow-up question lang po. UN Secretary Antonio Guterres says that calls current interest rates as predatory. Does the DOF share the same sentiment?
As what?
As predatory. He says, sir, just to give context, para lang po may context yung answer nyo. He condemned a global financial system, saying it's designed by wealthy countries largely to their benefit, and that without cash reserves, the poor nations were being forced to pay predatory interest rates.
Well, siguro he's referring to some countries in Latin America and Africa where interest rates can go up as high as 20%, mga ganun. Sa atin naman, hindi naman, I think it's still reasonable. In fact, noong time I think, before EDSA 1, umabot ang interest rate natin ng around 40% because of inflation. But those were the days na, masyado nang malayo na tayo dun sa ganong klaseng situation, and I think our interest rates are reasonable, considering the rate of inflation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. We have a question here from Sam Medanilia of Business Mirror. Of course, you mentioned that agriculture is one of the driving forces of inflation. Our food security is one of the main issues that we need to address in addition to energy. But his question is, are economic managers restudying proposal to deregulate or liberalize the sugar industry to allow better market competition and supply?
All right, ang model namin for normalization is the rice tarification, no? Alam mo, in the past, I think for the last 50 years, before the rice tarification, rice has always been the major source of inflation in the country. Now, when we adopted the tarification, in other words, anybody now can import rice as long as they pay a certain amount. It's no longer a major source of inflation. Kasi people or businessmen can decide to import or not to import, right? And so yun ang model namin sa in other industries. Sugar, and even in meat, no? So that is the model. So magdidesisyon lang kami kung ano yung appropriate tariff. And then we are also committed to use whatever is the tariff to improve the industry. Ganun ang nangyari sa rice, no? Kasi in the past talagang every year in, year out, sinasubsidize namin yung National Food Authority, you know. Tapos mataas pa rin yung rice, so we decided to tarify.
Thank you. I believe Maurice Umali of GMA7.
Good morning, Secretary. Sir, first of all, when you mentioned the decrease in the inflation rate from 8.7 to 8.6, of course, you mentioned that it is good news. But gaano po kalaki ito relative to the size of our economy, the 0.1% decrease in the inflation rate?
Usually, ang inflation, minimeasure yan year on year, like January this year compared to January last year. Pero recently, kino-consider na rin namin yung month on month, no? For example, yung from December to to January, if I'm not mistaken, ang month on month nun is 1.7%. Multiply that by 12, ang lakas nun, no? So ngayon naman, bumaba naman siya from January to Feb, no? By 0.1. So okay na rin yun. But so as long as, in fact, ang forecast ng BSP for Feb is 8.5 to 9.3. That's right, di ba? 8.5 to 9.3. So mas malapit na dun sa lower bound eh. So that is good news actually.
Yes, but in terms of impact to the ordinary Filipinos, how big of an impact is this? Will the Filipinos or the ordinary Filipinos really feel the effect of this 0.1% decrease?
Our economy is sound. Kahit medyo mataas ang inflation, no? It remains to be sound. In fact, it grew by 7.6 last year, right? So, hindi masyadong naapektuhan ang consumption, for example, no? In fact, mag-reserve ka ngayon sa mga restaurants, hindi ka kagad nakakapasok, nakapila ka, di ba? Ang haba ng pila bago ka makapasok. So, maraming gustong kumain, di ba? So mataas yung inflation relative to what we had for the last 10 years, but okay pa rin yung ekonomiya natin. We don't expect the economy to slow down. Mag-slow down lang siya to between 6 to 7%, yun ang forecast namin this year, but it will recover to around 6.5 to 8% in the following years. Okay.
Sir, just two more points. You mentioned a while ago na you were already able to identify the source for the extension of the targeted cash transfer program. May we know where exactly will we be getting this? And how soon are we going to start this extension? You mentioned 2 months.
I think it will be released in a few weeks. I cannot give a specific date kasi sa DBM yan, no? But we already have identified the funding source. And who are the recipients? Ito yung old recipients. We will not come up with a new list.
So there will be no revision?
Continuation
Kasi baka
lang.
may iba na mas kumita na sila, they were
Hindi
able
naman.
to really
Mas
recover
mahirap pa
already.
yung kung babaguhin mo pa yung list. 1,000 pesos lang naman.
So the funding source will be coming from DBM.
We-
They will be the ones to identify, not...
They will release the money. The funding source will come from, siyempre, yung mga tax collection namin, sa finance, manggagaling yung ano. Okay?
Sir, sorry, one last. Regarding the legislative priorities for the agricultural sector, which you mentioned a while ago, will this be in line with the amendments for the proposed amendments for the Constitution? Kasi dun po sa bahaging yun, it was mentioned that it will be focusing on the economic aspect. Will this be in line with that with those amendments, sir?
No, that's separate. That's separate issue. For example, ang issue doon siguro is, for example, the opening up of media. Di ba? Media is close, di ba? Opening up of education. So, pwede na pumasok dito yung mga other universities abroad. Ganun. Maybe re-reviewin natin yung ownership of land. I don't know kung ano yan, but this is different from the constitutional amendment. Okay? Thank you.
Next, we have a question from Alvin Baltazar of PBS. Does he have a microphone?
Secretary, magandang umaga po.
Good morning, Alvin.
Secretary, doon sa nabanggit ko kanina, doon sa Energy Conservation Plan, meron ba tayong estimate kung magkano yung masasave ng government sakalit ipatupad na ito? At magkano po ba yung spending ng government as far as electricity consumption is concerned?
I cannot answer you that, no. But I'm sure it's going to be substantial, no. Kasi we did this before, di ba? During the energy crisis. Tataka nga ako bakit we did not do this sooner, di ba? Sana tinutukan natin kaagad to. Kasi we cannot influence supply, ang presyo ng supply, but we can do something on the demand side, no. But I will get back to you as soon as we get the estimate, okay?
Okay. Alan Francisco, PTV4.
Hi, Sec. Hi, ma'am. Speaking of the energy consumption, the proposal to adjust the working hours from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., would it be only for government agencies or even for private eventually, sir?
No, we cannot mandate the office hours for the private, but mostly government agencies, no. Baka sumunod na rin yung mga private sector, no. At saka ito, parang mas maganda nga, mas maaga yung pasok mo, di ba? Hindi ma-traffic, di ba? So, naka-off ka doon sa traffic. You go early, and then you go back earlier also. No? And then, siguro maganda rin nga yun na meron kang isang day nakaset aside for work from home. Di ba?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Tuesday New of DZBB.
Good morning, Secretary and Ms. Daphne. Secretary, nabanggit nyo kanina, mayroon tayong targeted cash transfer program. Hiwalay pa po yung fuel vouchers para sa sectors ng transportation, fisher folks, and yung mga farmers natin. Pero may sinasabi po si Secretary Jaime Bautista na hindi agad maibibigay itong fuel vouchers dahil may kondisyon na kailangan tumaas muna ng mataas ang presyo ng langis bago maibigay ito. Ano po yung pinakamataas na halaga na kailangang marating ng presyo ng langis sa world market bago natin maipamahagi itong fuel vouchers?
If I remember right, ang condition doon is dapat yung presyo ng Dubai crude oil in the world market is $80 US dollars per barrel for 3 consecutive months. Okay? Hindi yung pag-ganun lang, di ba? Dapat continuous na ganun. Yun ang condition ng batas na yan.
So until na ma-reach niya yun for 3 months, hindi pa talaga maibibigay.
Hindi
yung
pa
fuel
talaga,
vouchers.
hindi pa justifiable na magbigay kasi nasa batas yun eh, di ba?
So,
Pero at its peak, tumabot yan ng ano eh, if I remember right, tumabot ang presyo ng crude oil at $110 per barrel last year. Pero ngayon kasi bumababa na rin yung presyo ng gasolina in the world market. Especially since nag-announce ng China na they are only targeting 5.5% growth. No, I think this disappointed in fact many industries. Oil, bumaba yung oil, metals, bumaba, ganun. So, let's see. Mas mabuti na bumaba naman yung oil kaysa sa magbigay ng subsidy, hindi ba? So, it benefits everybody.
Okay. Further questions? I think we have we still have one more. Okay, go ahead, Alvin.
Pahabol na lang,
Yeah.
Ma'am
Yeah.
Daphne. Doon sa 74 na na pasok sa yung office hours, sir. Does that mean na hindi na allowed yung overtime sa mag-extend beyond 4 o'clock?
Hindi, allowed pa rin. Kasi, pero ang reckoning ng overtime mo after 4. Di ba? Kasi if you have to work till 10 o'clock in the evening, okay, may overtime yun, di ba?
Pero patay na aircon, sir.
Hindi ko lang alam kung papatay na yung aircon o hindi.
Good question.
All right. Good question.
Okay.
Worries sa overtime. Tsaka wala naman kayong mga regular office hours, di ba?
Right. I think we have enough
Thank you.
topics to write about and
Thank
to
you very much.
discuss in the
Okay.
next few
So
days.
enjoy yung first time ata kayo nakaganyan. No?
Thank you so much, Secretary Diokno.
Nagbigay nito, di
Thank
ba?
you.
Yes, sir. Yes. Di ba?
And that ends our press briefing today. Thank you.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.